Well, welcome back to Amka Kenya. Remember, the hashtag is Amka Kenya, where you get a head start. We continue with the press review right here on this morning show. And still on the People Daily, let's just fast forward to page 6 of the People Daily. Have a look at the spotlight that has been shown on Nancy Gathungu, and the claim or the tag right there is that MPs claim the auditors have been ignoring major issues and have only been highlighting flimsy matters. I mean, advice, we've gotten to the point where we are having issues that they're now blaming the Auditor General that in some cases she's working with other agencies and other institutions to doctor some of these reports. Is it a case of incompetence in terms of doctoring or in terms of filing these reports? So we're looking at a situation where we have an Auditor General who's basically doing her work and those in power are not too comfortable with those reports.
It is usually a double-edged sword because I look at it and sometimes I feel like we have come to a place where in this country we have a competition of popularity, where who gets the biggest number of clickbaits and who gets the headline. Because, just as you rightfully put your question, that is it a question of people in power having a problem with the other person? And sometimes we forget that the Auditor General is part and parcel of government. It's the same way we usually forget that the judiciary is part and parcel of government. So sometimes we have these conversations as though judiciary is some animal that stays somewhere and then there is government. Same thing we usually have with the Auditor General. Like the Auditor General is seated somewhere and then there is government. All these people are actually one government. And they should be able to be working for Kenyans for good and for the better. So in a situation whereby everyone seemingly is competing for attention more than for duty, it becomes a disadvantage to the Kenyans. I have often asked this question where we get to 2025, then the Auditor General gives us a 2022 report. So I always ask the question, so what are Kenyans supposed to do with it? Okay, fine, we are now aware that our money got lost in 2022. Okay, so what? Yeah? So we have a new governor in a county government. Yeah? Now the Auditor General's report that comes, it comes as a report of the previous government. But you see, those details are not necessarily explained to the public. So you have a headline that says Nairobi County lost this amount of money on this project. But the details of the when and the how and whatever are now, the devil is in the detail that normally most of the Kenyans do not actually go to. Now, it now begs the question, what is exactly the function of the Auditor General? Because we are supposed to have an audit that must be periodic and it must be able to be so soon so that there is a correction that can actually happen. So that other arms of government can actually now come in and be able to see where did the money get lost. So the EACC can also now come in. But when Kenyans keep receiving a report that is about 7 years, 6 years, 5 years behind schedule, it also becomes very hard for even Kenyans themselves to even be able to audit the same government. So whereas I disagree with the aspect of MPs looking as though they want the Auditor General's report to go a certain way, that they wish to have it. But I also wish to also call out the Auditor General, whereby the Auditor General must also be timely. They must be able to come up with reports that are in line with the timings. At least give us a report of the same government.
Like you've mentioned rightfully, this article also highlights that one of the things the members of parliament are complaining about is repeated reports, time and time again. So if this has been the case for a while, and you know that you've seen this report in the last session you had, shouldn't it have been flagged and things, been looked into for us to have something that is current and tangible for that matter?
But most of the time, you see, why these things happen like that is because, like I told you in the beginning, we have come to a place where in this country there's a lot of people and public servants are not more interested in the duty, they are more interested in the headline. So when you come after a short while when there is nothing headlining about you, you just pull up some things that can be able to be sensational. We have become a sensational country where now we are doing more drama than work. That's why nowadays when you look at the parliament, you look at members of parliament who would not want to have a conversation, but they'd want to shout Yeah, they would want to dramatize something and walk out of a sitting so that at the end of the day, when we come here on this morning show, it becomes the headline that we now want to talk about, that such and such a member of parliament was able to walk out of parliament, that this guy was shouting at the top of their voice. And then, unfortunately, we as Kenyans eat that bait without understanding that that's not the civic duty, that is not the work of that person. That's not the reason why you elected that person there. You elected that person there so the person can sit in the committee and be able to canvass your issues. But now, politicians have now realized that if you want the attention of Kenyans, you become dramatic. So you go to a sitting, you shout at the top of your voice, you throw your hands, then you look like you are extremely more disappointed than the rest of us. And then I ask myself, so what do you want us to do if you are the one we elected, you are the one in the office? When you're shouting and throwing up your hands as though you can do nothing, why are we supposed to like you? Because we put you there so that you're not like us, so that you can fix things. But now, this issue whereby everyone wants to look for what can simply make them look like they're working. People today in public service, most of the people are more interested in looking like they're working than working for real. And that's why the Auditor General's report, I keep insisting that, one, we must be able to look at the timing. We really cannot be able to be having governors. Do you know sometimes we have reports that are, most of these reports are usually about previous, especially about county governments. I mean, we'll be talking about a previous county government.
Let me just come in there just before we move on to other matters. Of course, yes, the reports are probably from previous governments, but let's just look at one of the biggest issues, if not the biggest issue that the Auditor General has been singing about, and this is the issue of funding. Just this financial year, they got an allocation of about 8.6 billion. This is short of what they requested for the operations, and they say this is not enough to allow us to actually do this audit, and that's probably why they're dealing with these reports from previous sort of governments and years. So how then do we solve that issue? Because often or not, they're going to get underfunded.
I'll answer that question with another question. Which arm of government has ever said they have received funding in the right proportion? This is a government, this is the language that has always been there. The EACC also says they have not received enough funding. When you look at the Council of Governors, they also will keep telling you that, you see what, we haven't been able to receive enough funding. So everyone there will always be an excuse to anything in government. What people expect of you is to just do your work. So the moment we start excusing some of these things, we make these people be able to just lag behind. And then they will keep giving us this, you know, if you can't just serve Kenyans in a haphazard manner and then blame it on funding. If truly the funding is as bad as that, then why can't people get out of office? Have you ever seen any public servant who can be able to say, now for me as the Chief Justice, this funding is not enough and therefore we cannot be able to do this. And because I cannot be able to do this, I down my tools. Because with this funding, I cannot be able to do my job. Have you ever been able to see such kind of thing? Yet we see that happening in other countries, especially in the Western world. So for as long as you are in the office, I do not expect that, yes, there are teething problems that must be addressed, but it cannot be the main reason why we are having a conversation every day. Because when you wake up in the morning and come to K24 and you have a duty to be able to report or give news, you can't read it badly because you are poorly paid. You have a responsibility to just read the news. And when you have a problem with the payment, when there is a problem, you just be able to down your tools. So for me, whereas as much as I agree that sometimes, yes, the Auditor General's office might be underfunded, and this underfunding also needs to come with explanation. Let's get to understand this funding. What is the veracity of the funding? Which bits and pieces of the funding have you not been able to receive? Because we keep just saying that we have been underfunded, and everyone says that. Everyone says that.
So they need to break down what sort of...
What exactly have you not been... Because I have actually not seen, unless I have missed lots of pieces of information. Maybe you might tell me, because you are in the studio and you do this every day. Which public servant has ever come out and said, thank you very much, government, we are now fully funded?
That's another aspect, right, that we'll have another conversation about fully. But still in relation to that topic, just below, you know, that particular story, still on the People Daily, that is page 6, we have senators' concerns over 300 billion grants to counties by development partners. Now, it says here in this particular article that senators have raised concerns over the utilization of more than 300 billion shillings in grants advanced to counties by donors and other international partners since the inception of devolution in 2013. Quite, serious there. The Senate Public Accounts Committee, chaired by Homa Bay lawmaker, questioned the utilization of the donor funds and what projects have been funded across the 47 counties. Your perspective?
On that one, I totally agree with the Senate, because I have often said that, especially this being a week where we are having the devolution conference,
right,
we need to really have a lot of relook onto our devolution, because we need to reanalyze what are the gains that devolution has actually been able to make. And just the same question that and the same issue that we're talking about, the matter of the Auditor General. Often, when you see the chairman of the Council of Governors, all these times since devolution, most of the time it's always a complaint about funding, underfunding. Even it is still a subject even during the devolution conference. Now, on one hand, you have complaints about underfunding from the Council of Governors. On the other hand, you have such a headline from the senators who are saying, we have so far received 300 billion grant.
Yeah.
What has it been able to do? And you see, for the benefit of Kenyans, they must be able to understand that grants are actually monies that you don't pay back. They are not loans. Yeah? These are monies that you are given so that you can be able to infuse in your economy, probably to deal with people with disability, to deal with the youth issues. They are basically money that you don't really get to pay back. So it is actually money that we should be able to see its effect. 300 billion is not little money. And if you inject 300 billion into Kenya, honestly, there must be something that we must be able to feel. Yeah. And so it takes us back to what are the gains of devolution. And don't we think as a country it's time we relooked at devolution? Because did we really transfer functions, or we actually transferred and devolved corruption? Because today you go to the counties and the amount of corruption that is happening in the county governments is skyrocketing. And that's why even during the Gen Z crisis, I kept saying that in as much as we want to put national government to task, can we cascade this same energy also to the counties, devolved levels, and look at the counties? Because today you enter the counties and you find as a public servant in county government whose salary maybe might not get to the threshold of even 100,000, but the person lives in a 200 million mansion. So these are the teething realities of this devolution. I was happy yesterday when I saw that the president has been able to fully transfer all the functions of county governments now to them. But it goes beyond just the transfer of functions. Can we be able, what are the gains of devolution? Unfortunately, most Kenyans today cannot really be able to point out at things and say, this is a product of devolution. In fact, most Kenyans would count the products of CDF than they would count the products of county governments. Yet CDF is a 120 million allocation. When you go to the counties, it's billions. So we must be able to relook and see, first of all, is our structure of county governments correct? Did we really need 47 counties? We must be able to look at, did we really need a whole cabinet at a level? So you have a cabinet secretary for trade in Kisumu, you have a cabinet secretary for trade in Siaya, another one in Homa Bay, and all these, what is the proximity?
All right, well, let's also just quickly have a look at page 8 and touch a bit about these matters of politics. And on that page, you have eyes on Kenya Kwanza in Malava after IBC sets by-election date. Now, Malava is expected to go for a by-election in the coming days, and we have different candidates from Kenya Kwanza to DAP Kenya's Seth Panyako. We're looking at Roots Party also bringing out somebody in the name Caleb Sunguti. So it's a very hotly contested sort of by-election that we're expecting right here. I mean, advice, when you're looking at this, this is a litmus test. Kenya Kwanza is trying to reaffirm its grip in that region. Musalia Mudavadi being hailed as a kingpin of that western region. If Kenya Kwanza is to lose this, what does this speak to the Kenya Kwanza regime moving forward?
First of all, it's a Kenya Kwanza seat for them to regain, because the late member of parliament was actually a UDA, a UDA member of parliament, and so this is a test on them to actually, whether they can actually reclaim that seat. And that by-election, is a very big litmus test, just as the headline says, on Musalia Mudavadi and his grip on the Western region. Remember, as we move towards the next election, there are talks and undertones of who then becomes the President Ruto's deputy president in the next election. So this becomes a very big test on Honorable Musalia Mudavadi to be able to justify and reassure the political class that he has a grip of the region and therefore fit to even move into the next office. And but be that as it may, away from him, it is also a test purely on the president. Because remember, the former MP was actually his member of parliament, not an ANC. He was not an ANC member of parliament. So this is quite a test on the administration to reaffirm that. But it's actually a bigger test to the Gen Z than it is even to Kenya. Because remember, twice in this country we have had an uprising that never happened before since our independence. And the young people of this country have been able to claim and say, we want better governance, we want accountability, and all these that have been able to be claimed. Now, this by-election and other by-elections presents an opportunity for the young people to be able to make themselves heard and felt. Because they have been heard before, but most have felt that they have not been felt. Now, in this particular by-election, the test is what we were going on the streets to fight for. Can we now be able to deliver it fast in this by-election? Before we wait for what I was saying, 2027, we want to do miracles in 2027. Can we prove our miracles in this by-election? That is a very big test to the Gen Z, because then, will this by-elections go as tribal as normal? Will these by-elections be able to go, will the tokenism that has been there in previous elections, will the tokenism be there in these by-elections? Because the Gen Z must be able to know that if the by-election goes the normal way the election has always gone, if the people who end up elected in the by-elections will be still products of fraud, will still be products of corruption, will still be the normal culprits, then the Gen Z uprising starts no moral authority to say there is something huge that is going to happen in 2027. Because they have a chance now in this particular by-election. And I don't know whether it's fortunate or unfortunate for them. The youngest candidate in this by-election is a Kenya Kwanza candidate. Actually, the Gen Z candidate in that by-election is a Kenya Kwanza candidate.
Yes, indeed, I agree. 27th November 27 by-election will be a great test for Gen Z. That's a good point. Let's wait for November 27 for the by-election. Now, this morning I want to give you tips on how you can test the world without leaving Nairobi. Maybe you might be ungependa ku travel India, uende Dubai, uende sijui wapi, taste the food. But now imagine you can taste the whole world ukiwa hapa Nairobi without even using a single coin. I mean, kuna some things you can enjoy and you feel like you're in Dubai. So page 18 and page 19 of People Daily, wamekulistia some of the foods that you can eat as you are in Nairobi, but you can feel you are in Somalia and Dubai. Listen, wame highlight some of the food, including Ethiopian cuisine. 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 Wame highlight West African plate. Wamesema kuna place you can get Chinese noodles, all right? Kuna place you can get Pasta Nation, and you can feel like you are in Italy. So in these places we may highlight maeneo kama vile Elenana, Kilimani, hapa Nairobi. Kuna place where you can get those Pasta Nation, Italian fine dining. I mean, you can just enjoy that food. Also, wameongelea masuala ya Lebanese food, Somali eats, Northern Indian bite, and so on. So mtazamaji, kama unajua wewe pia unapenda kula kama mimi, make sure you grab your copy and swipe page, the next page uone pia page 19 of this People Daily, waweze kuona some of the foods ambazo wame highlight on that page. Alafu make sure you grab your copy. Yes, as you can see, all right? You can just enjoy all this vyakula by visiting these places, and you can feel ya kwamba umesafiri nje Nairobi, but the feeling ni international. That is page 18 and page 19. Let's now shift to page 20, page 24. Page 24 of People Daily. Bado ni mambo ya chakula. Now, for example, you want to take your friends for a lunch ya rakaraka, an unplanned lunch.
Yes.
What are you supposed to take? Kuna those, maybe umetoka job, you want to take your colleagues ya rakaraka. So those are on your TV right now. It's a simple lunch ya haraka. It is called elevated lunch, rooted in tranquility. Umenielewa hapo? It is not just a lunch, it is an elevated lunch. Na hapo amekwambia hapo kuna with a great company, it's a proof of best moments. Wamesema a surprise lunch, a great company and unforgettable flavor. All right? So for example, if you're planning to take your colleagues for a quick lunch,
okay,
just take them to those joints ambazo wameelezea on page 22 of People Daily.
All
Remember,
right,
it is not just a lunch, it is an elevated lunch.
Okay, Tony, thank you
Right.
for that update. Let's move on, make some progress here, see what else is on The Standard. Now, on the front page of The Standard, no thank you, Ruto. We all know The Standard has been having very bold sort of headlines right there, from Ghana to KNHCR. President Ruto's dream jobs keep getting dumped, and they've highlighted faces right there. Duncan Ojuang had been nominated for the KNHCR job. He refused. Millicent Omanga was to be given the Nairobi River Commission post. She refused. Timothy Bosire for an NTSA appointment, refused. And Margaret Nyambura, destined for the Ghanaian embassy, she refused. Advice, just quickly, as we move on to the Daily Nation, what does this depict? Is it a matter of these personalities actually realizing that if they align with William Ruto, it could not be well with them moving forward, or it's just a matter of principle?
I highly doubt whether it is necessarily a matter of principle. Because when you look at Honorable Millicent Omanga, there is a refusal she has, but there is also another place she's serving.
Okay.
Yeah, so she refused something to get another one. So it's not necessarily that she refused because of some principle.
Yeah.
So I think this matter is actually something you look at from two ends. Because on one end, especially from a governance aspect, I ask myself, before these appointments and these announcements, doesn't government have a brief with these particular people even before it goes on Gazette? Because I would think that is usually that is what is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
That before you get on Gazette notice, there is a briefing and all that. But then on the other hand, it also makes me tend to also feel like, is it then true that people can actually get these appointments when you just put your cards right and just work hard, and you can just sit here and maybe you get shocked that
highly doubt that, but
you have become the ESCC chair, because I look like
doubt that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I look at it from two ends.
Yeah.
But now on one thing that I'm certain is the issue of most of the people rejecting political appointments because of principle. It's usually a very slim fit.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's just political convenience.
Yeah.
And it's a bargain probably for something better. Maybe this is not. It's just strategy, because you look at Timothy Bosire is ODM. He serves in ODM.
Right.
Yeah, but you see, he's still in ODM.
Okay.
It's still in broad-based.
Got you.
Yeah.
Government,
So if
okay.
it's really matter of principle, and you really want to dissociate with government, then you take a bolder decision.
All right.
And on another way, I don't think the best way to be helpful to country is to reject appointments when things are going. If you believe that something is going wrong in your country, and you have a chance to sit at the table and be part of the fixing, I then think you should be able to be part of the table and do the fixing.
Right.
When you choose to be an outsider, then wamejua aje, because they are not inside.
Okay,
Kwa hivyo
we
wamejua
also
aje.
need to look at the Daily
Lakini
Nation.
lazima
We need to look at the Daily Nation.
Walifanyia nje.
Let's look at the Daily Nation.
Daily Nation. The front headline there says, U.S. I beg your pardon, U.S. damning report on Kenya's impunity. It says a dossier report by the U.S. Department of State has condemned Kenya's worsening human rights record, citing attacks on Kenya Kwanza administration critics, particularly during last year's bloody anti-government protests. And also on the front page here, we have President William Ruto. A picture of him there as he joins Kochia Kagab traditional dancers in a jig yesterday during the opening of the Devolution Conference in Homa Bay High School, Homa Bay County. President Ruto says his government is committed to unlocking the full potential of devolution. Also right there in red, as you can see on your screens, Ruto steps up attack on bribe-taking lawmakers. So those are among the headlines we have right there on the Daily Nation. That is what you need to know.
Well, that's all we had today on the press review. And at this point, we want to take a short break right here on Amka Kenya. When we get back, we continue with the conversation on Amka Politics. Just stay with us.